China's growing military capabilities in space has raised serious concerns regarding its potential use as an arena for war. Conflicts that start on Earth, spreading into outer space, become more likely. China's rapid progression in space technology, particularly military applications thereof, has alarmed experts and policymakers around the globe. America is stunned by China's swift advances in space technology, prompting fear that Beijing may soon overshadow both America and Russia in space competition. Recent years, Chinese rocket launches outpaced both nations, outstripping even Russia. Furthermore, concerns have increased due to anti-satellite Chinese satellite, with claw arms capable of disabling satellites belonging to other nations. Concerns have also been expressed by the US over China's possible deployment of offensive weapons in cislunar space between Earth and Moon, known as circumlunar space, where China has rapidly advanced their space technology capabilities, leading to fears that America might lose its edge as far as space goes. China's pursuit of space reflects President Xi Jinping's goal for them to become the global technological power by 2049. Their development and communication satellites and investments in missiles that target satellites poses a serious risk to US national security. The Ukraine crisis highlights the importance of space capabilities, with China surpassing US militaries in hypersonic weapons technology. American policymakers must come to grips with reality that they no longer dominate space battles. China's military advances in space are both impressive and disconcerting. Over recent years, this nation has demonstrated their capability of launching more rockets than the United States, while overthrowing Russia as the primary space exploration power. Furthermore, their government has publicly expressed its intent to become one of the premier powers on this frontier, prioritizing investments into their space program as they pursue global leadership status in outer space exploration. One of the more alarming developments has been China's development of satellites equipped with claw arm capable of reaching out and disabling satellites from other nations, an actionable threat against nations that depend on space assets for communication, surveillance, and navigation purposes. China denies offensive capability of these satellites, but evidence speaks otherwise, raising concern of space warfare potential. As tensions between the United States and China escalate, concerns over deployment of offensive weapons into space, cislunar region between Earth and Moon, has surfaced as tensions escalate further. US Space Command issued warnings over China's increasing capabilities, which threaten US assets located there. As such, it prompted calls from within to develop countermeasures or deterrent strategies within space to protect assets while keeping strategic advantage. Space warfare represents a serious risk to global peace and stability as nations expand their military capabilities in space. Conflicts in this domain become more likely. Furthermore, disruption or destruction of vital space-based assets could have serious repercussions here on Earth, from GPS navigation systems to global communication networks. As nations seek to reduce the risks associated with space warfare, diplomatic efforts must be employed and clear rules established regarding their use. This may require developing international agreements and codes of conduct which help avoid escalated conflict in outer space. In addition, international communities must come together and address challenges presented by increasing militarization of space and encouraging transparency, cooperation, and responsible behavior among spacefaring nations. Modern space races feature heated competition against leading spacefaring nations, particularly between the United States, China, and Russia. While initially most space races of the 20th century centered on these nations only, United States versus Soviet Union, China has now emerged as an equally powerful space exploration and technology force, shifting geopolitics towards multipolarism, with significant consequences both internationally as well as for exploration capabilities and future military missions in outer space. China's rapid ascension as a global power, both terrestrially and spatially, has raised significant concerns from other nations, specifically the US. President Xi Jinping made clear that outer space was essential to his China dream, with his ambitious target in sight until 2049, thus motivating extensive investment into their space program, producing advanced satellite systems as well as cutting-edge technologies like hypersonic missiles for testing purposes. China has recently advanced in space technology, and the US, in response, has reiterated the significance of maintaining their position as the preeminent global power in this arena. Establishment of US Space Force and the focus on space security with NATO partners are clear indicators of American commitment towards countering potential threats while upholding an advantage within space. Russia remains a significant participant in the space race today, despite not dominating as it once did during Soviet era. evidenced by their collaboration on International Space Station construction and their independent satellite launches that demonstrate both capabilities and desire to remain relevant within space exploration. Rivalries between the United States, China, and Russia in space have resulted in new coalitions and alliances to maintain or enhance positions within this volatile landscape. While this creates opportunities for cooperation, as well as increased tensions and conflicts. As countries continue investing in space programs and developing technologies, it is critical that they maintain space as an environment conducive to peaceful exploration and scientific advancement. To do this effectively will require ongoing dialogue, transparency, cooperation between spacefaring nations, putting into effect clear rules of engagement/code of conduct/norms of behavior within space exploration helps prevent rivalries turning violent, while creating a safer and more stable space environment for everyone engaged in exploring outer space. Rapid advancement in space technology and increased global military dependence on space-based assets has raised serious concerns over potential for conflict in space. Rivalry between United States, China, and Russia, along with other developments of offensive space capabilities, heighten the risk further, with international cooperation paramount for maintaining space as a peaceful domain. Space-based assets play an indispensable role in modern warfare, providing communication, navigation, and intelligence capabilities essential to military operations. However, as they become more vital to military operations, they present adversaries an incentive to disrupt them. Russia and China both possess capabilities to enable them to destroy satellites in orbit, while developing technologies like hypersonic missiles, anti-satellite weapons, and satellite tracking sensors represent serious threats to global security infrastructures. Space warfare could have devastating repercussions for not only nations directly involved, but for humanity as a whole. Conflict could result in massive amounts of space debris being released into orbit that poses long-term hazards to both manned and unmanned spacecraft. While destruction of critical satellite systems could severely compromise global communications, weather monitoring, and other essential services relying upon satellite assets for survival. International cooperation is of utmost importance when it comes to mitigating these risks and averting tension in space, and should aim at setting clear rules of engagement, codes of conduct, and norms of behavior for military activities in space. Such guidelines must address topics like testing space weapons, satellite tracking/tailing activity, as well as responsible usage of space resources. Emergence of new space actors has created an ever more competitive space domain, increasing risks of accidents, collisions, and conflicts. To avert crises from occurring, it is vital for established and emerging space powers alike to cooperate on creating rules, norms, and procedures which promote safe and responsible use of space, including minimizing debris generation while managing satellite traffic levels accordingly, as well as encouraging transparency and information sharing among countries. Emerging space powers play an essential role in helping address global challenges, such as climate change, disaster management, and sustainable development, through international partnerships and cooperation between nations, using space technology to monitor natural disasters, such as hurricanes and tornadoes, track disease outbreaks, or promote sustainable resource management. They all use their capabilities for mutual gain, demonstrating just how powerful space technology truly is for humanity's advancement. One key challenge of adapting to a multipolar space environment lies in striking an equilibrium between competition and cooperation. While competition in space exploration can spur innovation and technological progress, unbridled rivalry could escalate tensions into conflicts. Therefore, countries must acknowledge the necessity of taking an inclusive approach which prioritizes all spacefaring nations' shared interest over direct rivalry between themselves. As space becomes ever more congested and contentious, establishing an exhaustive code of conduct to prevent conflicts has never been more essential. Given this rise of emerging space powers, as well as militarization efforts on Earth's orbital spacecraft, international cooperation must come together in creating norms that promote peaceable use, while mitigating risks associated with crisis in outer space. An effective space code of conduct should cover multiple aspects of space activities, from the prevention of debris generation and responsible satellite use to interference limits and peaceful dispute settlement. Furthermore, such measures as exchanging information about policies related to space exploration, as well as notifying planned activities, will increase trust between spacefaring nations, while decreasing risks such as miscalculation. Diplomatic efforts must also be stepped up in order to counteract the increasing militarization and conflicts in space. This means engaging in discussions on arms control measures, as well as disarmament measures, engaging in regional or international cooperation in space security matters, for instance through INCDI or similar platforms. For example, UN conference or disarmament could serve as an ideal forum to negotiate legally binding treaties or agreements that prevent an arms race in outer space. Proactive international cooperation in space exploration and scientific research can also play a vital role in avoiding space conflicts. Collaboration endeavors, like the International Space Station, demonstrate peaceful coexistence among nations that hold divergent interests. By supporting collaborative projects and partnerships worldwide, not only can the international community deepen our knowledge about space, but also build trust and promote peace throughout its domains. International alliances and collaborations play an essential role in maintaining space security and stability, as space becomes an essential resource for global communication, navigation, scientific discovery, and scientific innovation. Maintaining its safety is more essential than ever. By forging strong international partnerships to meet common goals, nations can more successfully address complex space activities while mitigating potential conflicts that might arise between nations. International alliances play an essential part in space security by sharing and cooperating on space situational awareness, or SSA. By pooling their resources and expertise, countries can form more comprehensive understandings of space environments, such as tracking objects orbiting Earth, as well as anticipating collisions or close encounters that might happen, which in turn helps prevent accidents while decreasing miscalculation risks that could escalate conflicts further. International alliances play an essential role in creating and enforcing norms and rules governing space activities, including developing norms and enforcement processes to govern these activities. By cooperating on developing shared principles and guidelines to govern responsible behavior in outer space, nations can provide transparency, predictability, and accountability within its sphere, including measures to minimize space debris creation while controlling testing/deployment of weapons, as well as guaranteeing sustainable use of space resources. International alliances and collaborations play an essential role in driving joint research and development initiatives. By pooling their resources and expertise, countries can advance collective knowledge and technological capacities within space exploration, satellite technology, and services for mutual gain, creating an atmosphere of cooperation and interdependence among nations alike. One key to reconciling military and civilian space initiatives lies in promoting transparency and confidence-building measures, or TCBMs. By openly sharing their activities and capabilities for space exploration among nations can foster mutual trust between states that share space activities, thereby decreasing risks associated with miscalculation or miscommunication that might escalate tensions further. TCBMs could include sharing launch data for satellite launches, providing advance notice of planned maneuvers, as well as disclosing specific space systems, purposes, and capabilities. An integral component of successfully balancing military and civilian space initiatives lies in creating joint projects and collaboration among nations. Working collaboratively on scientific research, space exploration, or the creation of space-based services allows nations to build interdependence while creating shared interests that foster stability and cooperation, such as with initiatives like the International Space Station, multinational satellite missions, or collaborative space research projects. Nations should uphold international law and norms regarding the responsible use of outer space. By adhering to principles enshrined in agreements like Outer Space Treaty or other relevant agreements, countries can ensure their military and civilian space activities comply with global standards for acceptable behavior. For instance, by refraining from placing weapons of mass destruction into orbit, minimizing interference with assets belonging to other nations' space assets, or creating space debris. Promoting dialogue and diplomacy on space security issues is critical in maintaining an equilibrium between military and civilian space initiatives. By participating in regular consultations and negotiations, nations can address any concerns they might have and work towards building consensus around contentious matters, ultimately contributing to new norms or agreements that support stability and cooperation in outer space. Investment in long-term sustainability of space environments is paramount to successfully balancing military and civilian space initiatives. From tracking debris to developing technologies for responsible use of resources in space, to encouraging best practices regarding design, operation, and disposal of space systems.